Okay, I didn't go looking for the subject of this video. It came to me. It's an advertisement about women in the corporate world. It just came up before a YouTube video I was watching. And it would like to see more women in business. And I'm not really interested in that goal, but it doesn't really bother me. But this ad would have you believe that you can make money by investing in companies that advance women. Not only would it be moral and responsible, you can line your pockets by subscribing to their ideology. Oh, but before we start, I want you to know that the ad was not silent. I just figured I'd spare you the inspirational piano tune.
I can't listen to that crap. It's got no heart.
What does a feminist look like? Now that's a question. It'd be real easy to slip a joke in here, but I think I'll just let them screw this up on their own. They're about to define feminism. And that's always important because it lets them tell you what you think. A feminist is anyone who believes that women and girls all over the world deserve to live free of discrimination.
I take it you're a feminist.
Ma'am, I've been called a lot of things before, never been saddled with that one.
Okay, by the definition just given, I do qualify. It sounds a little too inclusive, though. I'm not sure that everyone who opposes discrimination is a feminist. Can we, tighten it up just a little bit? Of course we can. A feminist is anyone who believes that it's outrageous that in the United States, women still get paid 20% less than men. Is it 20% this time? Are you sure it's not 26% or 19%? But I can't think it's outrageous if I think that it's bullshit.
The wage gap is simply the average earnings of men and women working full-time. It does not count for different job positions, hours worked, or different jobs. It has nothing to do with the same job. It has nothing to do with discrimination.
And for women of color, it is even worse. And it's outlandish that women are still vastly underrepresented in positions of leadership. And offensive that we're still talking about this today.
Oh, fuck, this sucks.
A feminist is anyone, male or female, young or old, who realizes that gender equality isn't a woman thing, it's a people thing. And one of the great human rights issues of our time. Well, that does sound like a more reasonable definition of feminist. They certainly did corral their ideology into a very demanding set of values. Without the distracting color graphics, the second definition they've given us is, a feminist is anyone who believes that it's outrageous that in the United States women still get paid 20% less than men, or for women of color it is even worse, and it is outlandish that women are still vastly underrepresented in positions of leadership, and offensive that we're still talking about this today. A feminist is anyone, male or female, young or old, who realizes that gender inequality isn't a woman thing, it's a people thing, and one of the great human rights issues of our time. So, in other words, a feminist looks a lot like you. No, sorry. You had me for a moment, and then you hammered away at the boundaries of your definition until only the select few faithful adherents could be a part of it. I hope you don't think that's going to make this movement popular. But tell me, for those chosen few, those proud, politically correct, and socially outraged people, what can be done about this? How can they change the world? And you can fight this fight on behalf of women and girls everywhere with a tool so powerful, so effective, so jaw-droppingly simple that it can make companies more profitable, create more opportunities for women, and unlock more wealth around the globe, all at the same time. They really know how to build suspense. That tool is one you already have. It's your investments. Yes, your money.
Money makes the world go around, the world go around, the world go around.
My money? Oh, damn. There's nothing I can do then. I've been broke for so long I've forgotten what money looks like. Yes, your money can help create the change you want to see in the world. and deliver healthy returns at the same time. Here comes the real good news. In fact, companies with more gender diversity actually perform better. So, invest like a feminist. Align your investments with your values. Invest in companies that are advancing women. Make your money part of the solution, not part of the problem. You're either part of the solution or part of the problem. You're either a part of their agenda or you're their opposition. No other possibility. It's not only the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. Invest like a feminist. I wondered, though, is it really true? Do companies with more gender diversity perform better? See, I tend to doubt that. The idea is that men and women have psychological differences, so they're going to bring different ideas to the boardroom. And I don't think that follows. That men and women have differences doesn't mean that they think differently about all subjects at all times. It certainly does not mean that ideas readily available to one sex are highly elusive to the other. So I find fault with the theory. If this theory were true, though, it would do a lot to convince companies to advance women. So it makes sense that people will try to prove it true. It's easy to find a study that tells you that gender diversity is good for a company's bottom line. I was still skeptical after seeing these articles. I am suspicious of any study that finds the result it sets out to find. There have been plenty of studies on this subject, though, some more reputable than others, and I don't have time to go through them all. Wouldn't it be great if someone did? Wouldn't it be great if someone were to take the time to compare several studies to see what the consensus is? Better yet, what if that was done twice? One of the first articles I looked at was one of the most useful. Does gender diversity on boards really boost company performance? Many commentators suggest that gender diversity in the corporate boardroom improves company performance because of the different points of view and experience it offers. However, rigorous, peer-reviewed academic research paints a different picture. Despite the intuitive appeal of the argument that gender diversity on the board improves company performance, research suggests otherwise. Results of numerous academic studies of the topic suggest that the presence of more female board members does not much improve or worsen a firm's performance. In this opinion piece, Wharton Management professor Catherine Klein summarizes academic research on the topic and discusses the possible reasons and implications for these surprising findings. Consider two recent meta-analyses that have been conducted to summarize prior research on the topic. Post and Byron synthesized the findings from 140 studies of board gender diversity with a combined sample of more than 90,000 firms in more than 30 countries. Pletzer, Nikolova, Kedzier, and Volpel, I hope I got all those right, took a different approach, conducting a meta-analysis of a smaller set of studies, 20 studies, that were published in peer-reviewed academic journals and that tested the relationship between board gender diversity and firm financial performance. I took a look at those two studies. Women on Boards and Firm Financial Performance, a meta-analysis. This is the Post and Byron study. Despite a large body of literature examining the relationship between women on boards and firm financial performance, the evidence is mixed. To reconcile the conflicting results, we statistically combine the results from 140 studies and examine whether these results vary by firms' legal, regulatory, and socio-cultural contexts. We also find that, although the relationship between female board representation and market performance is near zero, the relationship is positive in countries with greater gender parity. Now, in case you missed it, let me highlight this. The relationship between female board representation and market performance is near zero. Does gender matter? Female representation on corporate boards and firm financial performance, a meta-analysis. Pletzer, Nikolova, Kedzier, Volpel, I'm sure I'm getting at least one of those names wrong. While a number of scientific studies have investigated the relationship between gender diversity and firm financial performance, their conclusions are equivocal. These empirical discrepancies have led to a lack of conclusive evidence about the relationship between increased female representation and firm performance, creating uncertainty for policymakers CEOs and investors around the world. The main finding of the current study, based on data from 20 studies published only in peer-reviewed academic journals, is that the relationship between the percentage of female directors on corporate boards and firm financial performance is consistently small and non-significant. The general magnitude of this result is in line with the findings of Post and Byron, who, based on data from 140 published and unpublished studies, also found a small correlation between gender diversity on corporate boards and firm financial performance. By testing the relationship of interest with our more rigorous and controlled methodological approach, for example by including only peer-reviewed and published studies, we provide further evidence that female representation on corporate boards is not associated positively or negatively with firm performance. Results of both meta-analyses provide little evidence to support the business case for gender diversity. However, more importantly, a higher representation of females on corporate boards is also not associated with a detrimental effect on firm financial performance, which supports the ethical case for diversity. There's a question left over after looking at this. Let me return to Klein's article. Commentators often suggest that corporate boards that include women will make better decisions than boards that include only men. The argument is that women differ from men in their knowledge, experiences, and values, and thus bring novel information and perspectives to the board. They increase the board's cognitive variety. The greater a board's cognitive variety, the theory goes, the more options it is likely to consider and the more deeply it is likely to debate those options. We don't know exactly why this theoretical logic doesn't hold among corporate boards. It is worth noting that gender diversity in other kinds of work teams is not significantly positively related to performance either. Despite popular press accounts that suggest that teams high in gender diversity outperform those composed only of men or only of women, rigorous research does not support this conclusion. Why doesn't it support this conclusion, though? Maybe a little common sense can solve this problem. Risk aversion is a trait that women supposedly exhibit more than men. And rather than delve into that argument for 30 minutes, I'll just use it as an example. Supposedly, this risk aversion can help a group, like a corporate boardroom, avoid unnecessary risks. That seems like a sound theory. The problem is that women who make it to the boardroom are not going to have that typical risk aversion. They're going to be the women who are risk takers. That's how they got there. So they don't have that difference. Besides that, and this is just my personal opinion, the differences between men and women are not that great. I'm not saying that the differences don't exist or that I don't appreciate those differences.
There is very little difference between men and women. But vive la différence!
What I am saying is that those differences aren't going to affect business strategy. Women are more likely to get misty-eyed over a sentimental TV commercial. Men are more likely to rage at a football game. Women are more likely to enjoy a Matthew McConaughey movie, and men are more likely to have one beer too many at a barbecue. None of these differences has anything at all to do with corporate strategy. The reason that diversity doesn't give a business better returns or worse returns is that men and women can both succeed if they put their minds to it. There is no mystical feminine or masculine energy that opens up special avenues of success.